Well, welcome everyone watching and here at the Hens Team Squares patio. This YouTube live stream is afternoon poetry at My Place Cafe. My Place Cafe is open until 3 p.m. If you're close by, come through and get a coffee or espresso. They use Coast to Coast coffee roasters of Arcadia, California. This roaster has ties to the Jackie Robinson fam. Above My Place Cafe is a Zenden, a yoga studio. Learn more about Zenden at thezendenla.com. I have an announcement regarding Zenden. So, for individuals who are interested in signing up for a class while physically at the cafe, there is a sign up sheet at the front of the cafe next to brochures, flyers, newspapers, etc. Please specify which class you will take, and such as I have already mentioned, Vinyasa or Soul Flow, Community Flow, or the Sunrise session. If you're going to take a class right then and there, the Zenden staff would appreciate that you write down the class you're taking, your name, your email if you have one, and your phone number if you have one. Not everyone has a phone, not everyone has an email. Please make sure to have your payment method ready, whether that is cash, card, or third-party cash transfer apps such as Venmo, PayPal, etc. Please be advised there is a 15-minute limit for each class, and space priority will be given to those who have signed up for a class in advance online at Zenden's website or through the ClassPass app. So, My Place Cafe would like to congratulate Don Kingfisher Campbell and his wife Mina Zhao. So I actually attended the wedding on Monday. Sean Hill also attended. He was a feature for an LA Poets Society event last year and a feature for Poets and Allies at Sidewalk Cafe years back when this place was a Sidewalk Cafe. For those who don't know, that's a coffee shop, like I just said, precedes My Place Cafe. Again, and it was just, oh no, and it was cool for me to be at a writer's wedding. We went to a buffet afterwards, and I loved it because I haven't been to one since the pandemic started. I'm still want to go to Golden Corral because they have the best like breakfast when it comes to like buffet breakfast. Anyways, so this afternoon's featured poet has a poetry collection published by Flower Song Press. I'll say more about Flower Song after she reads. Briana Munoz says everything is returned to the soil. I think I said that. Everything is returned to the soil is one of those books that take me back to learning about Aspasia, a historical female Greek philosopher. She talks about returning to the soil as well. So before I continue with my introduction, I just want to say that today's Dia de Poesia with My Place Cafe, Flower Song Press, and Spectrum Publishing is dedicated to the loving memory of a fellow poet that mostly everyone from Spectrum Publishing knew, Sharon Knight. I got to say a few words to her during some virtual Spectrum events like hello and nice job. And I got to hear her read and perform her work too. Sharon is missed greatly. So going back to Briana Munoz, in Raiz, the speaker says her culture is beautiful and describes how by mentioning her father's taste in music, which brings individuals wandering within the lindo Mexican context alive. What is interesting is that Coffee Grinds and Café Molido are the same poem, pero the two are structured poetically different. So they contrast one another, to put it another way, I think. The line, I watch you in the mornings, becomes two in Spanish. De observo en las mañanas. Munoz read Monarch from this collection at Voices of California too. Munoz also read If I Turn Myself into a Poem and Moon Poem. I don't know if they're from Loose Lips or not, so please correct me if I'm misspeaking. Oh, okay. Oh, newer ones. Okay. Voices of California 2 is what I want to discuss briefly. When there was a last minute change before the event at Rearte last fall, I'm so glad Peter Reel and Matthew Mejia agreed to have me reach out to Munoz to be part of the lineup with Mike Sonskin, F. Douglas Brown, Daniel Jose Ruiz, Angie Liu, and Olga Murillo, who have all read at My Place Cafe. I have another My Place Cafe feature. Luisbet Resto was one of the poets who read at Munoz's release party at Rearte. In addition to being an organizer at Sims Poetry Library, she's the event coordinator for Luis J. Rodriguez's Governor campaign. I reached out to the campaign to have them do their signatures and donations drive at My Place Cafe. After they agreed, Munoz followed up with me, and we essentially put the event together, which that was really cool. So with all that said, I know it was a lot. LaTanya and Jody Smith and I welcome Briana Munoz.
Thank you for the introduction. And thank you to My Place Cafe for the invitation. I thought I would start off with a newer poem. This was written specifically for a Ruben Salazar art exhibit at Plaza de la Raza that I think is still up. Today might be the closing day. I'm not sure. But so this was showcased in the exhibit, which is cool. This is titled 50th Anniversary of the Chicano Moratorium, a Poem. On the 50th anniversary of the Chicano Moratorium, indigenous Mexica dancers gather in ceremony at Atlantic Avenue Park with brown berets, student activists, and community organizers, their heads adorned by copilis with pheasant feathers or animal skins worn like Aztec warriors ready for battle. And Copal burning skyward toward Creator, calling for the cleansing of a racist system. Through the prayer of their drum and dance, they say no more killings of our people. The procession moves toward historical Whittier Boulevard against this heat of a Southern Californian summer. On black asphalt, their feet are wrapped by musical chachayotes and release a chant of painful remembrance. 50 years ago, 3 were killed, including Ruben Salazar, a Mexican-American martyr of journalism. During the same pilgrimage, a march for peace met by the countering LA Sheriff's Department. This time is hardly different, where the same slogans are used on cardboard signs even after half a century has passed. Stop killing us. We will not be intimidated. Abrazos, no balazos. Stop Chicano genocide. Thank you guys. So in June of 2021, I released Everything is Returned to the Soil. Todo vuelve a la tierra. This is a full-length poetry collection, and it is bilingual. The translations were done by a good friend. Her name's Ana Maria Flores. And then the artwork was done by Johnny Quintanilla, which is an LA artist, and he's really awesome. So published by Flower Song Press, and I thought I'd hop around reading from my book and then some newer poems like the one I just did. This is titled My Poem Isn't a Persuasive Essay. How many more poems do we need to write until the children are hopscotching, feet against white-lined, shapes against asphalt, rather than in cages? How much longer do we continue psychotically scribbling, smash the patriarchy, no war with Iran, water is life, Black Lives Matter, give the poor kid medical attention, the cold floor is no place for their last breath, God damn it. How many more hands angrily performing stanzas, lips releasing spit of rage and helplessness? Poets stand up because we hardly know how else to help. Because if we don't vomit out metaphors, it might be my breakfast. Poets stand up in response to your lack of credibility. Toddler president tweets, my lord, my poem isn't a persuasive essay for your vote. My poem is a cry for help. Released by pen and page, my poem is a shout. It is an airstrike on your country club. How many more Langston Hughes? How many more grandmothers holding signs that read, I can't believe I'm still protesting this shit? How many more Maya Angelos? How many more Allen Ginsbergs? Howls of anti-war? How many more John Lennons, Bedins for peace? How many more banned books? Your White House is filled with cisgendered white men dominating Mother of Mary in fishnets underneath her faintly blue mantle. Donald Trump, oh, how I've grown sick of that name, regulating uteruses, teasing her clit with your AR-15s, blood on fingertips. My poem isn't a persuasive essay on gun control, but how many more children answer me? This isn't a rhetorical question. How many more poets? How many more martyrs? How many more pipelines? How many more oil spills? How much more spilled blood? How many more traumatic brain injuries until your stomachs feel satisfied? How many more doors do my small knuckles need to knock on? Write a poem describing your thoughts on war. Thank you. So yeah, that is when I wrote that poem, I was really like, there's writing a political poem is a difficult task because we're all like thinking the same things and we're all writing about it, but like how many more, how many more years are we going to keep asking for the same things? And so that's been an interesting one in my collection. So I'll do a newer poem. And Jesse didn't ask how much time we have today.
Oh, so it's 2:19 right now. Until 2:45.
Cool. This is titled "If I Were to Turn Myself into a Poem." If I were to turn myself into a poem, I'd give myself a pair of legs so that I could travel to Santiago, Chile, the place of Neruda's death, and backpack to Borges's Buenos Aires. If I were to turn myself into a poem, I'd bring with me in my transformation all of the heartache, the way my mother's gentle body laid atop a pull-out couch next to Dad's hospital bed nightly, or the way my father never climbed back into his leather-worked saddles. I'd bring with me everything I still have not allowed the heart to write about. If I were to turn myself into a poem, I'd be an erotic poem, slithering around the neck, the fingertips, and into the optic nerve of the reader. They would shut their door to safely consume me as a poem. If I were to turn myself into a poem, my format would consist of hilltops and flatlands, and it would appeal to all five senses. And reading the poem, you'd pick up notes of sin and sacred sage. If I were to turn myself into a poem, I would flow like the Snake River of the Pacific Northwest. I'd move sly and easy. The reader would close their eyes and put their hands on the waist of the poem, dance and wrestle and even tongue kiss the poem. If I were to transform myself into a poem, I would unlearn the language of all white male poets taught to me in grade school. Instead, I would be a Mother Earth poem, a sacred soil poem, a floricanto poem. If I were to transform myself into a poem, that poem better be no saint. That poem would be a chain smoker, playing dominoes in back alleys. That poem would have a thick accent like Theo Chewy and a gut from pork chicharron dishes. If I were to turn myself into a poem, I'd be a melting pot of all poems. 21st century poems, poems that I've read and reread and involuntarily released a gasp. Poems that I didn't want to end, that I wanted to live inside of. poems that I've read and shouted to the page, "Oh, you clever, clever bastard." And the poems of all the poets we have lost. And in my body of a poem, they resurrect and reincarnate. As poets are immortal, clinking glasses of champagne amongst libraries and bookshelves. Yeah, so as mentioned, Flower Song Press, my pressmates will be here joining us later. But yeah, this journey with the second book has been just like a blessing, being published with such a great publisher, and of course, indie press. But we have all of the authors published under Flower Song. We've been kind of mobilizing together. So we were in San Francisco. We had a couple readings up there, and then we'll be in New York next month, and we're kind of strategically moving around and working together. And yeah, it's just been like a blessing of a family to be part of Flower Song. So I will read a poem titled "Famous Poets in the Sack." I imagine group sex with Whitman and Poe. Yes, double poet penetration. Being soft with Wolf, tucking the hair behind her ear, a soft grace of lips against her neck. I imagine T.S. Eliot is real vanilla, faking an O with Hemingway. That's usually how it goes with those hills like white elephants, toxic masculinity types, right? BDSM with Plath, real passionate baby making with Neruda, cries when he climaxes, some trippy lava lamp lit, LSD bedroom times with Ginsberg, James Joyce spitting in my mouth. I imagine going down on Dickinson, and I get aroused. Thank you. It's funny because my boyfriend's mom has a copy of my book, and I'm just like, I poor woman reading that poem in the book. But it's just being a poet. I love poetry written about the poetic experience and just other poets or what poetry brings to your, I love poems about poetry, so that I tend to experiment that way too. So we have 20 minutes. Cool. So I will read this poem. It's titled Hinfin, and it was actually in the Dryland Literary Journal, and Nikolai is here in the audience. And I think their submissions are almost open, right? 31st? Yeah. So submit your poetry. I think they're paying this time. That's what I hear. Bartender who got her BA in Spanish lit, reading Lorca at an open mic with her hand in her back pocket. Whittier street juggler with a bow tie and striped socks. I thought they only do this at La Linea as folks wait to cross back. Old man feeding LA street pigeons at a bus stop like it's his day job. Mariachi woman at Mariachi Plaza. You belong there just as much as they do. Man who asked me for change on my way to work. Man who asked me for change on my way back from work. Man who asked me for change in the parking lot. Woman with knotted hair who was yelling in front of Burrito King in Echo Park on a Saturday night. I wish I had more to give you. Child who hustles chocolate bars to support his basketball team field trip. Artist selling his mixtape in Venice Beach like it's still 1998. Paletero man, tamal woman, pupusa selling grandmother at the mat. It is tempting, but I'm a vegetarian. Asked up dancers at Ruben Salazar Park with chachayotes wrapped around ankles which resemble tree leaves shaking. Your dancing is healing our universe. Punk kids, hipster kids, psychedelic Spanish music making kids keep expressing yourself. Thank you. Okay, I'm good standing. Thank you. Yeah. I haven't had so much time on a mic. I'm like, what else do you read? It's nice. So I will read this poem. It's titled "Where Is Your Home?" after Jose Olivares, after Safia El Hio. Where is your home? Home is where your mother is. I accidentally tell a friend whose mother has passed away. Where is your home? In the suburbs of San Dieguito County, 20 minutes inland from the oceans I too rarely swim in. San Juan Diego witnessed an apparition of Tonantzin. He was an indigenous relative of Chichimeca Indian. Where is your home? Well, home is also where your grandma's kitchen is, I say in an attempt to correct myself. But what happens when a colonial border wall keeps you away from your only living relatives? Where is your home? I admit some days I am lost in a never-ending cycle of survival. Where is your home? And all I want to do is tend to a garden and make a home-cooked meal. Where is your home? Kumeyaay territory, Tonga territory, territorio otomi, Aztlan, this land, my land, your land, our land. Where is your home? I pull the reader by their hand. We kneel toward the ground and I have them feel it for themselves. Thank you. So this is a poem that I wrote the first day of this year, and it's titled "A New Year, Another Poem." This poet is not drunk this year. Midnight was rung in by hip script, by hands of lovers, the intense flame and fire of climax, while Los Angeles grew ablaze. The puppy dogs hid underneath bed frames, and the laughter that followed every cork launched from the necks of champagne bottle. Does morning pause at midnight? And do the people resume their shouting, Valentina Orellana Peralta, when morning rises? This poet is not pushing her stir counterclockwise to make her drink less bitter. This poet is tired. I am asking you, does hunger still ravage when the ball drops? Is all of Skid Row suddenly suited? I am asking you, does the city not remember the people suffering during celebration? Is kindness resolution this year? This poet is only writing love poems. Because what leads the revolution if not radical love? This year, this poet is only writing love poems because the divine tells me it is the year of the lovers. Thank you. So, yeah, we still have about 9 minutes. So I think we'll close with this last poem, and then I don't know if we want to do a Q&A because I don't know if I want to keep reading or not. This is titled "Tell Your Truths." It is not enough to just speak your truths. You must shout them. You must sing them into sky and storm and sow them into soil to create showers of lightning bolts that electrocute epiphany into the chests of those around you. Speak them in a way that others begin to memorize them, in a way that others compare their truths to your truths. Spit out hesitation and doubt like a wet woogie. You must analyze them under microscope, analyze them from the four directions and beyond. Lawislampa, Wheatslampa, Siwatlampa, and Meatlampa. Purge them from soul and body and mind. Your truth should be told in languages understood by all, tongued into dialect, danced into visual art. Your truth should be exhausted, wrestled every day, held in a chokehold, dehydrated, performed like pageant queens or show ponies filing claims to HR for exploitation, ridden like burros at border towns, realized during hot baths or meditation. Your truth should be sharp, like the edges of fenced wire that skating scoundrels hawk over and attempt to outrun the cops. Your truth should never be muffled, should never be held under tongue to keep the boat from rocking. Your truth should wreak havoc against the narrow-minded and obsolete, should know no color or sex or age or class. Your truth should be jarred and opened on your difficult days like ladybugs, penned aggressively, carved into bathroom stalls or tree bark, swallowed, swished from right cheek to left cheek like red wine. Your truth should never sell out. Your truth should be rooted beneath flesh under rib, but they should grow and extend like the breath of Abuelita's pomegranate tree, and the receding and crashing of the saltwater sea. Your truth should exist, resist, and long live. Thank you, guys. So I was saying we have about 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
But should we like open it up for Q&A if there's any
Yes.
questions or?
Anyone have any questions?
I'm good, man. She is so good. I mean, how did you get so good? No, I'm just totally overwhelmed. And you just got to keep going. I mean, in all directions, That AA, forget that. Just go on and teach it too. I mean, you just got the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Got
Thank
no
you.
questions. You answered them, which is
Yeah.
What about you, Mr. Harris?
So, yeah, I also wanted to give a shout out to Spectrum. Coco. When I think it was like 2 years ago, maybe you guys had me for a workshop, and I had my first book then, Loose Lips, and yeah, thank you. So yeah, it's great to see you guys here too. But, should I do one more to close? All right, they're asking for it. This is titled This Body. This body, my body that moves in routine every day for me, that rarely complains how I praise you. Heartbeat like the wiwit of the indigenous peoples, held with one hand, banged on by the other. Toes that feel the earth and vibrate with her. And like an empath, they cry, releasing her sorrow. Skin that changes with the seasons and through every orbit around the sun, how I praise you. This body who acts as home for others, and with gratitude they tend to every inch of it. Lips to lobe, lips to inner thigh, lips to the freckle of my left breast. how they praise you too. Thank you guys.
Okay, if I stand up straight, you guys don't see my face at all on the screen.
Yeah, I'm 4'11".
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's my sister's height. I think I told you before. Yeah. Okay, and that's better. I'll just stand up too for now. Okay, anyways. Brianna, great job and thank you for reading. I'm happy your My Place Cafe event is now a reality. Thank you to all for watching. I'm glad Nicolai Garcia is in the audience today. Thank you, Latanya, Jody, and all my coworkers. Oh, and Peter Harris, who's right here many years ago. And thank you for yesterday for your big order. To get in touch with Briana Munoz, follow her on Instagram at A Woman of Words. As soon as we end this live stream, look up Spectrum Publishing on Facebook. As soon as we end this live stream, that Flower Song Press, where Brianna's latest book is published by, is collabing with Spectrum Publishing. First, Basadillo, Iris de Anda, Angelina Sainz, and Spectrum regular Mega Sood, who now has a book by Flower Song Press, will all be reading out of their releases by Flower Song Press. Then it's the release party for Spectrum Spring Fantasy. The poets featured can all say they read with Briana Munoz, Mega Sood, Masadillo, Iris de Anda, and Angelina Sainz. The in-person component takes place right here, right now. If you can, please come to Woodbury and Los Robles for an amazing time, as Latanya Smith says, this fabulous party. So have a great Sunday, everyone. Actually, have a great Sunday with Ike's Creek at 11 a.m. And remember to make my place your place.